Bethesda's Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is an old game. I don't know why I said Bethesda's Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim's an old game. Everyone knows what Skyrim is. You know, it came out originally in 2011, and the version that I typically play is the Switch version, which has a lot of similarities to that one. There's obviously an updated and enhanced version that you can play on PC or the Series X or whatever. But for all intents and purposes, I'm playing an 12-year-old video game at this point. But it had such an impact on the people who played it and the industry when it came out that it does continue to be a serious touchstone for video game analysis and criticism and so on and so forth to this day, and probably will sort of indefinitely. Even as recently as right now, a video just got put out by a YouTuber whose name I can't remember, but it's a very long video about Starfield. And fairly early on in the video, Skyrim is used as a reference point, which makes sense, same developer and all that. One of the things that Patrician TV said about Starfield early on was that it afforded itself quiet, dull, contemplative moments throughout its journey. And it was painted in contrast to Skyrim, which was sort of painted as the Subway Surfers generation open world RPG.
Skyrim, more so than the others, is beautiful, but also jam-packed with encounters practically on a timer to ensure continual, formulaic retention of attention.
And two things came to mind when I heard that. The first was, oh, maybe I actually should play Starfield sooner rather than later, because I quite like boring games. And the second thing I thought was, is that really true of Skyrim? And for me and a lot of other people's, I don't think that is true. I think that Skyrim is sort of a deeply touching, quiet experience that has a lot of these moments of 2 a.m., you know, listening to the music and just kind of staring at it, reflection. So I wanted to take you to a few of those quiet places in Skyrim, one of which is right here. If you want the full experience, put your headphones on, and we'll take a moment to ingest or absorb the ambiance of this screen right here. Now this is, of course, the rooftop of the School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in Winterhold. And I've always found this place to be particularly potent in its quietness. You know, it's easy to walk out into the woods of Skyrim and find some little spot that you can stand where there's nothing going on and there's no people and whatnot, as you would be able to in real life. But it's not that easy to find spots that sort of feel like they should have people that don't. And this would be one of them. You know, for the most part, as an open world game, Skyrim does a really good job of covering up the fact that it's a 360 era video game, you know? This is the same hardware as Oblivion. And where Oblivion does feel like it runs on the Xbox 360, Skyrim kind of just feels like it runs on Skyrim. You know, maybe that's just a product of the fact that it's been brought to so many consoles, but it no longer feels, to me, rooted in a particular era of video gaming. And in a way, maybe Bethesda deserves credit for forcing the game to transcend the hardware, because they've re-released it so much that it's like, obviously everyone's going to connect with the first time they played it, but culturally, someone could say, yeah, I remember when I had my 360 and I would stay up till 3 in the morning playing Skyrim in college. Someone could very easily say, oh man, I remember when I got my Nintendo Switch and I would stay up in bed and play Skyrim when I was supposed to be sleeping before school, right? So I think what I might be saying here is that re-releasing Skyrim 1,000 times is actually kind of based of Bethesda, and 30 seconds ago I was not in support of it, but I think I am now. Anyway, I got off on a tangent there, but this is kind of a go-to spot if you're looking for quiet moments in Skyrim. This is definitely a place that when you stumble upon it, if the music's hitting just right and it's at the right time of day, you will have one of those moments, you know, where you get the goosebumps, you get a little teary-eyed. But there are plenty more moments like that in Skyrim, so I'm going to show you a few more if you don't mind. Now this is a classic Skyrim activity as far as I'm concerned. There are so many games that have the ability to sit, and there is no point to sitting. And When I'm actually playing Skyrim, I never sit.
Now this is a classic Skyrim activity as far as I'm concerned.
When I'm actually playing Skyrim, I never sit.
Because it's functionally a useless thing to do. Because in Skyrim, you don't have back pain or leg pain. You don't get fatigued. And pretty much anywhere you can sit is going to be a great candidate for having a quiet moment. But, I mean, look at this. Here, I'm going to shut up for a second. Just listen and look. I mean, for God's sake. So where we are is one of, I think, the most underrated towns in all of Skyrim, which is a little zone called Evarstad. And oh my God, there's a person here. Holy shit. That's crazy. It's like I'm hanging out with, I'm like squatting with somebody. That's so cool. In Evarstad, there is a shack, like busted up. As you can see, it's not really a good functioning shack right now. Obviously, that gentleman over there is using it well enough, and it's got a table and at least part of a roof, so that's a blessing. But in the shack, there's a table, and we can sit at the table. So this is that table, of course, that I was just referring to. Evarstad has this beautiful waterfall, which is cool. If you look closely at it, the way that they animated it is actually kind of mesmerizing. Let me get closer for you. If you stare at it for long enough, it kind of makes your brain feel a little weak. So I highly recommend next time you're playing through Skyrim and you feel like, oh, there's too much going on. I would say the next time you're playing any game that has the ability to sit and shut up for a minute, just do it every once in a while. You'd be surprised at how much more grounded you feel in whatever game you're playing when you maybe don't fast travel everywhere and you actually take a moment to stop and look and have a quiet moment. Now, in a way, you might be thinking this is sort of a silly video idea. It's just like, oh, quiet moments in Skyrim, because it's not really quiet moments in Skyrim. It's really just going and being quiet in places in Skyrim. Yeah, okay, you make a good point. If you had a problem with it, though, you probably wouldn't have made it to this part in the video. In effect, this is really just my way of popularizing those YouTube channels that have like 3-hour-long ambiance clips of video games, but nobody watches those because they're like boring. So this is my way of sort of taking that vibe and giving you a taste of it without you being bored, because I'm talking at you now. Anyway, where should we go be quiet next? I know where. Okay, so here's an interesting place. A very quiet place. As you can see, somebody was here before us, but they stayed here a little too long, you might say. Had a little too much peace and quiet. And before I show you any more, why don't we just take a moment to take in the sort of the ambiance and the sound design here while looking at this skeleton. Now, the reason I wanted to come here is so we can do a little, I guess, role play. And I know when people do Skyrim role play, they often do, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna be an Imperial, or, you know, I'm gonna be an unemployment enumerator. But what we're gonna roleplay as is we are gonna roleplay as person starving in a cage in the bottom of this boat right now. This is actually a little bit weird, like a little eerie, you know? But we're gonna stand next to this fella and we're just gonna look at what this person would have been able to see as they passed away into another realm. We've got no windows, no nothing. Up towards the back of the boat is just like this weird, eerie little spot up against the wall back there, kind of creepy. But I think most of your time's going to be spent sort of looking out this. Just waiting to see if someone's going to come around, give you food or anything, I guess. This isn't really what I intended this video to be about. I don't know why I decided to go down this rabbit hole, but I don't know. I guess I just feel for this individual. Then eventually you do it long enough that you starve and die. It is sort of the ultimate test of being quiet for a long period of time, right? And imagine you'd been down here for like months and months and months, and then you finally got to leave. Let's kind of put ourselves in that mindset. Like, boom, already just this is probably an overwhelming sight for someone who's seen nothing but brown. Holy hell, I didn't know this was going to do this. Wow. And of course, you're not meant to, like, every video game is not meant to be stopped and looked at in this way. You can do it with any video game and it's a fun exercise, but big open world games, where so much of it is at your own pace, under your own influence. For me, it's such an integral part of what makes a game like this worth playing at all. Because it's kind of that contrast that etches it into the wrinkles of your brain, I think, at least for me. Am I giving Skyrim too much credit for something that I'm just bringing to it? Maybe. But if I can do the same thing in Starfield, maybe Starfield's for me. Speaking of Starfield, let's actually go look at one more thing here, if you don't mind. The job of a lighthouse, which this is to provide a beacon for incoming ships to let them know not to run into stuff. I assume. I don't know, I'm not a ship guy. But I assume that's the point of a lighthouse. In Skyrim, there are no incoming ships. There are no ships that come and go. There's nothing that would need the help of this lighthouse. So what we're looking at here is a person without a purpose. This is a lighthouse that will never have the opportunity to do what it was meant to do. Now, we are standing on some dirt right here, as you can see. Some gravel. We're on a little tiny island, kind of near the city of Solitude. Over here, there is a piece of wood, as you can see. But this is our little island. We have some rocks, and this little island is near this lighthouse. The video game is trying its best to put on a show for us so that we believe where we are. We have a lighthouse here that's there so that we believe that this is a place that ships come. But we can stand here for hundreds of days and never will a single ship come. And would that not sort of make you feel like bad for the lighthouse? As long as we don't come over here and look at the lighthouse doesn't really exist. And as long as we're only around it a little bit, we could still believe that, maybe some other day while I'm not around, a ship may come. But if we stand here and we let the cycle of the day run over and over and over again, the longer it goes, the clearer it becomes that this lighthouse's entire existence is fraudulent and performative. And I think in some ways I find that relatable as a person. And I think maybe all of us do at times. And in that case, what's a lighthouse to do? And that's the true beauty of it. Now, anyway, I want to do something else here. Now that we've gotten that out of our system, we're going to do this fun little exercise. So I'm standing on this, what is this called? Ground? I'm standing on this dirt, this gravel. And I'm looking at the top of the lighthouse. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut to the top of the lighthouse and look at the gravel. Okay? So I'm standing here, but I'm going to go there and look at it from a different perspective. Are you ready? All right, here we go. There it is. That's where we were just standing. You can see the rocks, and you can see that little stick. And I don't know why doing this makes me feel so weird. Like, remembering that I was standing there, but now I'm standing here, kind of fills me with this, weird feeling that I don't really know how to elucidate, but I wanted to do that so that then someone in the comments can say how it makes them feel, and then I can steal that and start saying it. Now, we are standing in the light, in the flame itself. The useless flame that will never, ever guide a ship truly. And similar to watching water in video games of a certain era, watching fire, very interesting. I especially like over on the right how clearly it's just a flat texture, So yeah, now here we are, up here. Another great spot to sit and kind of contemplate in the land of Skyrim. And I suppose if a ship was going to come, it would probably come from that way, right? Like a big open sea that way. You'd probably have it come in to this bay. But look out that way. Do you see any ships? No. And you never will. Which kind of makes me think of, prayer, in a way. Oh, man. Maybe I shouldn't go down this rabbit hole because it's actually a little bit existentially depressing. But, this idea that this lighthouse is kind of sending out a message. And it's not even that it's sending out a message to a person and not receiving anything back. The lighthouse is really, it's sending out a message to something it's not even there. There are no boats that will ever see it. because there are no boats. But it's not the Lighthouse's fault. The Lighthouse was made by game developers. And kind of in that way, I guess you could say maybe there is a parallel there. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole right now. Let's take a look at these stones. Man, what a depressing idea that was. Well, if you were depressed by this video, leave a comment down below and say that you were. Thank you if you support me on Patreon. You guys are the reason why this channel can continue, and why there is now a YouTube channel where you can listen to someone talk about the Solitude Lighthouse for a few minutes. If you want to do more wandering around Skyrim and waxing about it, you just let me know and I'll do it. Anything you need, I will do. I don't know exactly what